Go ahead and have a seat. Um, Obviously, I'm not pastor. Uh, he is still recovering, and he actually sent me a text this morning. He wanted to be here, but he hurt his bionic arm. Uh, he let me know this morning that he wouldn't be here, but he's going to be rooting for me. And it is an honor and a privilege that I don't take lightly to be invited up here. And so when Pastor sends me stuff, and whenever he asks me something, he's like, "I know you're busy, but this is such an honor and a privilege that I don't care if I'm asked, I will make time for this every time, because this is such an honor and privilege to be up here and to be asked to speak and be allowed to speak. But if you're just joining us today, if this is your first Sunday here, welcome. You're catching us on the tail end of a series, as Ethan mentioned. Evan mentioned. I do that to the two of them all the time, right? We got Evan, and we made both of them speak today. So we're at the tail end of a series called Making Change, and so say it with me as we've been going through these series. So we've got, first week we did less is more, stress is bad, giving is good, and today we're going to do tomorrow matters. So this is one of those things of, sorry, the song service was awesome. My throat's sore already. So one of the biggest challenges that we face today, and I would say my generation, but it's more than kind of my generation, and I'm one of those weird ones, like I'm kind of a Gen Xer, I'm kind of a millennial, depending on where you draw the line. But one of the biggest challenges that we face today is we are absolutely spoiled with now, right? So we're totally spoiled by the immediate. If I grab my phone and I text my friends, like, now I'm not an iPhone user, so I don't expect bubbles. But I expect, if I send a text to my friends, like 5 minutes, I should have a response back to you in 5 minutes, right? Right? That's kind of what I expect from my friends. My mother, I love my mom. My mom's awesome, and I don't mean to. Mom, I know you're watching. I don't mean this in a mean way. But my mother, if I don't answer the phone when she calls me, I get a text, right? Right? Am I alone in that? Right? Okay. So it's one of we expect the immediate. I mean, I get home today. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to turn on my TV and I'm going to start streaming whatever it is I want to watch. Right? It better not stop buffering. Right? How many of you have turned off a streaming service because it kept pausing? Okay. Right? So we get that. And it better be HD. Ooh, man, if my internet's not blazing fast and it starts like dropping quality, we binge watch. Anybody like me and wait until the whole Mandalorian series was out before you started watching it, so you could just watch all of it straight through. All right, cool, right? Don't give me an episode a week at a time. Give me the whole series so I can sit down in one sitting, just watch all of it. So it's just I don't have to. I can hit the skip button to go through the recaps, right? If I order something on Amazon. All right, I'm clicking that Prime button because I want to see what's going to be here in 2 days. I don't care if it's a week from now. Nope, I don't care if I'm going to save $1. I want it now. And hey, even better, what's going to show up overnight? Right? When am I going to get that same day or next day shipping? Those are the ones I'm going for. We get our coffee. We don't even wait in line anymore. Right? You order ahead. Right? You pull up your Starbucks app, your Dunkin's app, you order your coffee ahead, so when you get there, it's ready, you can just grab it and now be on your way, right? We are all about instant gratification. And because of that culture, because that's been so ingrained in us now, we have the hard time with grasping this concept of tomorrow matters. We have a really hard time thinking about the future because everything I want, I have it now, right? I can get it right now. If I really need it, there's a way to get it immediately. And the most obvious place that this shows up is in our money and is in our finances. And so I looked up, there's an article that came out in September on bank rate. So bank rates, you just think you go there to find out what interest rates are. No, they actually have articles that are well researched and done. And so they published this article back in September. They said of Americans that make less than $50,000 a year, 76% of them live paycheck to paycheck. 76%. So more than 3/4 of Americans that make less than $50,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. The one that I found a little bit more disturbing is of people that are making between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. 65% of them live paycheck to paycheck. 1 in 5 Americans say that they feel financially secure. 1 in 5. That's insane. 80% of our country doesn't feel like they're financially secure. It's nuts. Absolutely crazy. Now, for some, okay, there's a little understanding of why that is, right? I mean, maybe you've got multiple kids at home, and you take a lower paying job because you want to spend time with your kids. That's cool. Totally get that. But for a lot of us, it's just simply because we're living for today without any regard for tomorrow. We're spending all whatever comes in goes out. We dump it all on credit cards. I have to have this. I need the latest Xbox. I need the latest PlayStation. I've got to have that new Oculus, like the new one that has like the color video. Oh, right? You got to have it. Absolutely have to have it. And so we live like tomorrow doesn't matter because I've got to have that newest, latest, greatest thing today. And so what we want to do is with this today is I want to get you. Sometimes my brain goes faster than my mouth does. I've actually, no joke, I spent years in therapy trying to overcome it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get you to change how you think, right? We're trying to get you to think about tomorrow and how tomorrow matters. And so we're going to look at some verses today in today's message. And so what I wanted to start with, I want to pull up Proverbs. We're going to spend a lot of time in Proverbs today. So if you have a Bible, just keep your thumb in there because we're going to look at a lot of different Proverbs. It is an awesome book on wisdom. But Proverbs 21:20 says this: "The wise have wealth and luxury." Read that last part with me. "But fools spend whatever they get." Right? So the Hebrew word for that is living paycheck to paycheck. Right? Okay. Proverbs 6:6-8 says this: "Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn their ways and become wise." Right? Ants are pretty awesome creatures, right? "Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter." Right? So ants get it, right? Fools spend everything they get, and so we don't, right? How many of you want to be a fool? Okay, good. I'm glad. I'm happy to see that. So this is something. So we've got the Old Testament wisdom in Proverbs, but Jesus actually talked about this as well. So he actually told this parable, and it's, the parable of the talents. Now, a talent it's just a sum of money. It's not like, hey, I can, juggle. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about it was a sum of money. Some translations say it was like a bag of silver, a bag of gold, a year's wages. It's some significant amount of cash, right? So I want you to just think when you hear the word talent, just think a large amount of cash. And so this story in this parable in Matthew 25, there was this master who had assuming he had a big plantation. So he's going away, and he's got 3 of his servants. And he's like, hey, I'm going to go away for a while. I'm going on a business trip. I'm going to be gone. I'm going to give each of you some money to take care of while I'm away. And so he takes to one servant, he gives him 5 talents or 5 bags of money. He goes to the next servant, and he gives them 2 bags of money. And he goes to a third servant, and he gives him 1 bag of money to take care of while he's gone. And so he goes through this whole thing, and he's like, this is yours. While I'm gone, take care of it. You're the steward, right? You're in charge of it. We'll do whatever you need to do with this money while I'm gone. So that's the story, the parable of the talents. We'll get back to it in a second. So when we talk about tomorrow matters and changing how we think, right? So there's 2 ways that we can make money, right? So you can have people making money. Means you go out, you get a job, you do something, you produce something, you do work for something, and you make a wage. And the other way to make money is money making money, right? You take the money that you have and you put your money to work, and you send your money out to do something. to make money. Okay, and so this whole story back in Matthew 25. So this whole thing goes out, and the guys go out, and they got their money. Matthew 25:16 says this. So the servant who would receive the 5 bags of silver needs to invest the money, and he earned 5 more. He doubled his money, right? So he took his money and he took the money and he put the money to work. So his money made money, right? He put the money to work. And so Jesus, the master comes back. Now, this guy who had 5, he doubled his money. He talks to the servant who had 2 bags of money, and guess what? He's got now 4 of those talents. So he doubled his money. And then the third servant, he called this guy wicked and lazy. What did he do? He buried it. He set it aside and said, he's like, I know my master's a prudent man, so I'm just gonna hold on to it. Right? I'm going to put it under my mattress and just keep it. It's going to be a rainy day fund, and it's just going to sit there and do nothing and be ready, and I'm just going to hang on to it for my master when he comes back. He called him wicked and lazy because he just did nothing with it. Jesus, in the story, the master actually took the money away from the one who had 1, gave it to the one who had now 10, and said, hey, you know what? This guy knows how to deal with it. Now, some of us have absolutely no idea how to invest. Right? No, we have no idea how to make money, and that's okay. I am not a financial advisor. I've taken some of the tests, not all of the ones Nathan has, but I have taken some of the tests and stuff. But I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. So if you go and do whatever I'm saying to do today, and you lose your money, sorry, that's not on me. What's the commercial? What's the disclaimer, Nate? Historical performance is no guarantee of future success. Pretty much, okay. So these are principles, not laws. So they don't always work. But one of the ways that you can learn how to do this is we have this program that we put on every year called Financial Peace University. It's coming up in February, right? So in February, it's a 9-week series, once a week. You'll learn like what insurance to buy. For life insurance, you'll learn how to invest, you'll learn how to save, you'll learn how to budget, you'll learn how to plan for your retirement, learn how to get out of debt, which is like, that's like the first step is, well, actually it's not, having a little emergency fund, but getting yourself out of debt, and then once you have, you're not spending money on debt, which is stupid mistakes you made before, but you actually have money, you can start doing and thinking about tomorrow. So FPU's coming up. And so we'll talk about those things. But this morning, what I want to talk about is there's a couple of different principles when it comes to investing, right? So number 1, do not invest in what you do not understand, right? So don't invest in what you do not understand. Proverbs 24, 3 and 4. A house built by wisdom and becomes strong through good sense and through its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. So a couple of like practical applications. My grandmother, so she's long since gone, but my grandmother, she was a World War II wife. Her and my grandfather got married just before he shipped off to war, and kept this incredible budget of every single thing that she spent all through the war, and just pinched every penny as kind of that generation did. And so she actually, by the end of the war, by 1946, she had saved up a pretty good sized chunk of change. And so she turned around and she said, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to spend it. I'm going to buy stock in AT&T. Now, in the 1940s, AT&T was this massive corporation. They had all of the local telephone service in the country. They had all the long-distance services in the country. If you wanted to make a phone call and you wanted to talk to somebody, you used an AT&T phone that you not only paid them for the service, but you also leased the telephone from them because the phone itself was theirs. You just leased it. So this was if there's a company that controls things, it's AT&T. So I'm going to spend money and I'm going to invest in AT&T. So she spent about $500 on AT&T in 1946. In 1946, it was trading around $50 a share, right? It's a significant investment. By the 1970s, AT&T was trading around $60 a share. Now, they also paid dividends, so like you get a quarterly check from them for stuff, and so this was a great deal. Now, a little bit of history lesson for, I'm going to say about half the room. In 1984, the government, well, actually it started earlier, but in 1984, they broke up AT&T, okay? Anybody ever hear of the baby bells? Ma Bell, okay? AT&T was Ma Bell. They broke it up. And they said, okay, AT&T said, they made all these little regional bells. Let me go back. So they made all these little regional bells so that we had like NYNEX, which is us up here. There was Southern Bell. There was all these different like local carriers throughout the different regions of the country. And then AT&T is like, you know what? We want the long distance piece because long distance is where we make money, right? It was super expensive. It used to be super expensive to call somebody that wasn't in your local dialing area, okay? So it was AT&T's like, that's where we're making money. We're going to keep the long distance service. And oh, by the way, all you little regional carriers, we have this wireless spectrum that nobody can do anything with. So we're going to give you that as a consolation prize. Okay? Wireless spectrum. Okay? They gave it away. Now, what my grandmother did is she said, you know what? I don't know a whole lot about this business. So when they broke up all the bells, everybody who had shares in AT&T got shares in the baby bells. So she said, you know what, I'm going to sell off that, and I want to put it back in AT&T because they know what they're doing, right? Because they built this massive corporation. So obviously, they know what they're doing. So she sold off those shares and went back into AT&T. Anybody know what AT&T was trading at on Friday? $16. $16 a share. If she had let it ride in the baby bells, those baby bells started merging and they became Lucent Technologies, Verizon Wireless, Southern Bell, SBC Communications, Comcast wound up buying up. AT&T spun off their broadband business, so part of that would be Comcast. So all of those like big, massive corporations now, but because she didn't understand the business, she let it ride and expected the experts knew what they were doing. Okay? So don't invest in the things that you don't understand. And sometimes the best investments you could make are the ones you don't make. Right? So if she had taken that $500 and just thrown it into a savings account, that'd be like $30,000 today. Just in a generic savings account that like right now they're like, what, less than 1% right now? But over the years from like the 1946 to now, that she would have had $30,000. Those shares, $16 a share off of a $500 investment. So don't invest in things you don't understand. The second principle is don't put all of your bags. Yeah, don't put all your bags, okay? Right? Anybody ever hear this? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Ecclesiastes 11:2. But divide your investment among many places. For you don't know what risks that lie ahead, right? Did she know that AT&T was going to break up and become all these little baby bells? And no, right? I mean, how many of you could have imagined Tesla would be this massive corporation and then like have these huge ebbs and flows, right? And so you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Now, I do need to give you this example. So one of the things that Dave Ramsey teaches in FPU is don't buy single stocks, right? So don't buy the AT&T like my grandmother did. So I didn't listen, and I bought my wife one share of Pixar. Okay? This isn't the actual stock certificate because Pixar doesn't exist anymore. It's no longer traded. It got bought out. But for our first anniversary, right, it's the paper anniversary, I bought her a piece of paper. So I bought her one share of Pixar. Nice little frame. And so this cost about $100 with the extra money for the frame that's been beat up because we've moved so many times. So I bought her one share of Pixar. I think the share itself was about $90. Now that stock did a split, right? Does anybody know what a stock split is? Okay, so it was a 2-for-1 split. So for every share that we had one. For every share we had a Pixar, we got 2. So now I had 2, but it halves the price. So it dropped down to about $45 a share trading. but I still had $90 worth of stock, right? So I still had the same amount of money in the company. Now, fast forward a couple of years later, it gets bought by Disney. Disney is a much bigger company, right? Now, Disney bought it for those of us who owned Pixar, right? I'm an owner, right? I own Pixar. We got two, I keep saying me, it's actually Andrea's. It's okay, it's marital asset. So we got for every share of Pixar that we got 2 shares of Disney. So how much Disney do I own now? 4. I got 4. So now I own 4 shares of Disney. I am an owner in Disney. I get to vote, well, she gets to vote in their annual meetings, and we get stockholder updates and stuff. Now, that Disney stock, as of Friday, was worth about $400. Right? That's a pretty good investment, right? So that's an 8% return on investment from 2006. No, 2005, sorry. When did I buy? 2004. 2004. Got to think about when I was married. Got to think about my anniversary date. Right? So from 2004 to now, right, got an 8% return on investment. That's not bad. Right? Even Nathan's nodding his head. Yeah, that's not bad. Right? Now, the other, so again, putting all your eggs in one basket. That's again, I got one share. It's one company. When we got married, Andrea worked for a company, and they had a 401k. And we said early on, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and put some money away for the future for our retirement. We just put it in a 401k, threw it into a mutual fund, which is just some advisor that goes through and they buy all these shares and just make these amalgamated stock. So they buy a bunch of stuff. So it's not just one thing. It might be one sector, but it's not just one company. Okay? So they bought all of this stuff. We put, from 2005 to 2006, we put about $1,000 into that account. Okay? As of last quarter, that account is worth about $30,000. Okay? That's a 20% return on investment. Because we didn't put it all in one place, right? We diversified so that one company's bad week or bad year doesn't affect the whole thing. And there's different ways to invest. I've got a cousin who retired at like 30 because he did bonds. He trades in bonds. He's a bond broker. Now he consults on like CNN and all these others. You can buy businesses. I know people who have bought businesses or started businesses and they use that as their investments. There's people that do real estate. Real estate is awesome. It's a great investment. There's people that buy and sell commodities, right? So there's all different ways to do it. You don't just have to do it through stocks, okay? But the whole point is, and this is a near and dear principle to me because I'm a farmer, right? So it's kind of like manure, right? How many of you have ever driven past a manure pile or a manure pit at a farm? Okay? It's ripe, right? You get that nice ammonia smell that just burns your nostrils, okay? So when you get all that manure just piled up, and we just, we throw it into a pit, and now it's not really related, but growing up on a farm, right? I've been buried up to here in it. It's not pleasant to be that deep in manure, okay? It kills everything. Nothing grows in it, right? But what happens when you spread it around? Yeah, it fertilizes it, right? So when you spread it around, when you diversify it, you spread it all around, it makes everything else greener, right? Things grow thicker, they grow richer, they grow taller, right? So it's the same principle with this. Don't throw all of your money in one place and let it ride, but spread it around. Don't put all your eggs in one basket because that basket might close. It might become an AT&T. All right? Third principle. Don't try to get rich quick. 1 Timothy 6:9 says, but people who long to be rich fall into temptation. I just want to make sure, okay. And into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Right? Um, right? So we want it now, right? We talked about that. You got to have that new Oculus. I got to have it. I got to keep up with the Joneses. You know, I got to keep up with appearances because my neighbor has it, so I've got to have it. And I hate to burst your bubble, but the only one that you're actually competing with is you. Your neighbors really don't care, generally. But all right. I come from a really, really large family, right? So when I say my cousin, that could be any one of 30 plus people, all right? So I'm going to tell you a cousin story. Because I have this one cousin who is a schemer, right? He is constantly looking for get-rich quick schemes, okay? One of his schemes was he was going to raise cows, beef cows, and he was going to open a farm-to-table restaurant. And he was going to raise all of the cows for this farm-to-table restaurant, and so that everything that this restaurant served came just from him. The restaurant's never opened. He doesn't have any place to feed, house, care for the cows. He has no background. Now, I come from a farming family. He is not one of them. Okay? He does not come from the farming side of the family, so he has not had the education of what it takes to care for a cow. But that was one of his schemes. He started a business, a landscaping business. Right? So he was gonna change the landscaping view of people in our town, right? So small town, very rural agricultural town that's like trying to become a rich town. He was going to change the view, and people were going to do all this and pay him to do all of their landscaping, and which is awesome. But when you don't pay your vendors, they stop giving you stuff, right? So he racked up all kinds of debt around town. He was gonna sell police cars, right? Governments have money, right? Towns have money. They're going to spend money. I'm going to outfit the car, and I'm going to put all of the possible blue lights you can get on it, and I am going to sell cars to police departments. Well, guess what? You need a permit to have blue lights on the cars in Massachusetts. Guess what he didn't have? A permit. Guess what the chief of police in my town said when he saw the permit? No. So he was a schemer. He's going to buy land and build a housing development in a small town. Okay? So all these great get rich quick schemes that he had. Okay? I don't think any of them have worked yet, but he keeps trying. When I was deployed, I worked with a financial management services unit. We called it a FIMSU. Matt, right, Matt? Okay. So we called it. So there's a bunch of finance people, right? These are supposed to be smart people, and they found out that I had actually at one time worked in an investment company. And the number one question I got from them is what stock can I buy today that's going to go up tomorrow? Every single one of them. And they wanted to day trade, right? They wanted to buy stocks that were going to go immediately up. And they thought, oh, well, you worked at a financial services company. You must understand what's going to change tomorrow. No, I don't. If I had a crystal ball, I would not be working where I work. I would be buying it and selling it, right? I would not be doing what I do. And so they wanted to know what was coming up next. I mean, there's an entire site on Reddit devoted to this. It's called Wall Street Bets, of people just trying to figure out what's going to go up tomorrow so that they can go dump a bunch of money on it and blow it, right? You know, there's meme stocks or stonks, right? You know, what's the stonk that's gonna go up tomorrow? What's about to explode? So just people just trying to get rich quick, trying to buy whatever's going to happen. Now, and I know I'm going to pick on Nick for a minute, okay? Because Nick bought some of them, not knowing that they were meme stocks, right? You didn't know it was a meme stock. So, but there's a difference between. So it's okay. So meme stocks. When I say meme stocks, like during COVID, like AMC, the movie theater company, and eBay EB Games? No, it's not EB Games. GameStop. GameStop bought EB Games. GameStop, right? They became meme stocks. Like everybody was buying them just to try and drive the price up because an investment company was trying to drive it down. Okay? But Nick bought it because he's like, hey, this is an area that I understand. Everybody's stuck at home. What do they want to do now that they're not working? They're going to probably want to play video games. Where are they going to buy their video games? GameStop. Okay? Makes sense, right? So Nick actually did well with some of the meme stocks, but not unintentionally. But he didn't buy it because it was in meme stock. He actually thought about it. So he's the exception, not the rule. Bitcoin, all right? All right. Cryptocurrencies, and like, again, if you understand the sector, it's okay, right? I have friends and people in this room that have crypto. That's okay. They understand what's going on with it. For me to jump into crypto and be like, I'm going to crypto mine, I'm going to spend money is all I'm going to do. Is I might as well just light it on fire. I'd get a better return on investment. It would probably cost me less. Okay, so don't try to get rich quick. So a lot of us, what we do is guys, we're kind of engineered, and particularly men, we're engineered to kill it and drag it home, right? That's our mentality. Is we want to provide, we want to just make it happen, we want to do that thing, but we're set up and we try and sprint. And the problem is, life is not a sprint, right? I mean, we can sprint. Anybody can sprint 100 yards. Becca's giving me a dirty look, but Becca, you could sprint 100 yards. Okay, it's a sprint. All right, but what we need to do is we need to become marathon investors instead. Now, when you go in and you start training for a marathon, you're not going out and you're not running 100 yards at a time. You're running 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're adding mileage on slowly. You're doing things. You're making your gains a little bit bigger every time, just mildly larger each time you go, right? You're not trying to jump out of the gate and just take off running as fast as you can, but you pace yourself. You do slow but steady progression. Okay? Proverbs 13:11. Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes disappears quickly. Wealth from hard work grows over time. Okay? Another translation says it this way. Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little will increase it. Okay? Whoever gathers money little by little will increase it. Right, so we go, we talk about marathons, right? So, our married people. Let's see our married people. How many of you had great marriages the day one when you were married? Right? Right? Marriage is hard work, right? You've got two people who were raised by two very different people coming together, and you've got different views on saving, right? One of you is usually a saver, one of you is usually a spender, right? We heard about that last week. One of you tends to be a little flighty, one of you tends to be a little bit grounded. And so you throw that together, and then you start having kids, and you start throwing kids into the mix, and you've got different ideas and views of how you should raise and discipline your children. And so marriage is hard work, and so you've got to little by little come together in your marriage. You need to get to know your spouse. You want to have godly kids? No? Hello? Is this thing on? You want to have godly kids? Okay. How do you have godly kids? Little by little. You need to invest in your children. You need to spend time with them. You need to show them what it means to be godly. Because Brian and Carol over in Farmland for an hour a week on a Sunday, they're not going to, they will have an impact on your children, but they're not going to change your children. What's going to change your children is what they see you doing at home. Because we get an hour on one day, you get them for 7 days. Okay? You have so much more influence. And so there's a this model that we want to do is little by little, right? So we want, so money plus consistency plus time equals wealth. So you want to grow wealth, it's going to take some money, it's going to take some time, but it's going to take consistency. Okay? Little by little over time. One of the models, so there's a bunch of different models. So one of the models that often gets taught is 10-10-80, right? Anybody here 10-10-80? All right, nobody. Awesome. So 10-10-80 says you give 10% of whatever you have, of whatever you make, give 10% of it away. 10% of it is set aside for savings and investing. 80% is what you live on. Okay? Now, there's other models. So there's a 20-30-50, right? 20-30-50 is kind of a cool one. So you invest 20%, you spend 30% on your wants, and you spend 50% on your needs. That one, I kind of like that one. 10-15-75, because we just love fractions. 10-15-75 says you save 10% just in savings, you invest 15% for your future, and then you live on the 75%. All right, so there's a couple of different models. Now, did you guys spot the one difference out of all of those models? Okay, 10-10-80 is different because it forces us to think about somebody else. Okay, because this isn't about us. It's not all about you. So that 10-10-80 model tells us, we're going to invest 10% in ourselves. We're going to live on 80% for today. But we're going to take that other 10% and we're going to invest it in God's kingdom. Okay? So that's the 10-10-80. So you invest in God's kingdom, you invest in your own future, and then you live on the leftover. Okay? Instead of giving the leftover, live on the leftover. Okay? There's a book by a gentleman named Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. And he wrote kind of that principle of the time, consistency, and money equals wealth. He said this. He said, the compound effect is the principle of reaping huge rewards from a series of small and smart choices. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you two choices. And before you raise your hand, I want you to hear the two choices. Would you rather have $1 million today or a penny that doubles every day for the next 30 days? Okay? So how many of you would want $1 million today? Okay, got one. That's it, just one. All right, so two. Okay, how many of you would rather have a penny double every day for? Okay, so about half of the room. And how many of you just don't raise your hand for anything? Awesome. Okay. So if you chose $1 million today, awesome, you got $1 million. If you chose a penny that doubles every day for 30 days, at the end of that 30 days, you have $5.3 million. Okay? Little actions consistently done over time equal wealth. Okay? Little actions over time equal wealth. For me, growing up, tithing was never an issue. I got saved when I had nothing. Right? So I was a teenager. I got saved. So tithing was like, oh, okay, 10% of nothing is not. You get 10% of nothing. So it was pretty easy for me to start tithing. But what happened was when I got out of college and I started actually having money, I got stupid with debt. Pastor shared my FPU story of when we started Financial Peace University. Sorry. We started FPU. I was spending $6,000 a year at Starbucks. Okay? That was, and it really was the sitting down and figuring out how much I was actually spending that was like, wow. Because, $5 a day, didn't really think about it, right? But it adds up. And so we went through FPU, and guess what I did? I got a part-time job at Starbucks. Now, there was a couple reasons for that. Number one, I needed a part-time job because we were trying to get our debt snowball going. But one of the reasons I chose Starbucks is, do you know what they offer their partners? They don't call them employees, they call them partners. But you know what they offer their partners? Free coffee! Guess what? That's a $6,000 bonus that I just got for taking a part-time job there. So I no longer had that coffee bill, and I could still keep my coffee habit. Uh, when Andre and I got married, this is something my grandfather did as an investment. So my grandfather was pretty shrewd investor, pretty wise with properties. He bought up a whole bunch of land in the 1930s and 40s, and he would buy it. He'd harvest the timber and he'd pay off the mortgage with what he made on the timber, and then and then the next time he harvested it, it was like pure gravy. But one of the things he did with people who grew up in my family and kind of worked on the farm as when they were kids is your wedding present was a house lot. That's a significant chunk of change, because I know some of you were trying to find houses, and I would not live here if I was looking at what you're looking at for houses. I couldn't afford it. But that was one of the things that my grandfather did, is because he knew he wanted to keep the family together. He wanted to do things that were a little bit irrational, right? Because it doesn't make sense to just say, I'm just going to give all of my kids and all of my grandkids property. Like I said, there's 30 plus cousins. That's a lot of property, right? It's irrational to give away that much land. But he wanted to do that. Now, one of the things that's done, though, because my grandfather was a blessing to me, I've been able to be a blessing. All right? I can't even count the number of times that pastors tried to put me on salary here. Okay? I don't make, like Stephen said it last week, I'm going to say it too, I don't make any money here. I don't get paid. I'm not on salary. I'm considered staff, but I don't take a salary from the church. And pastor continues to try and put me on salary and give me something. Right? But because I've been so blessed, because my grandfather gave me a piece of land, so I have a fairly small mortgage. I have a great paying job because I've actually finally figured out like financial principles and have been rewarded with more over time. And when I say overtime, I mean overtime. But so instead of me taking home a salary, what I was able to do is tell pastor, hey, instead of giving it to me, let's give it to a couple of our young families that are starting out. Because what I would get paid from the church really doesn't move my needle that much. I would probably just throw it at my mortgage, which I'm already planning on paying off a couple years early anyways. So let's give it to somebody that this is going to make like some change and help them actually live in this very expensive area that we live in. Okay? But I couldn't have done that had my grandfather not been a blessing. So tomorrow matters, right? And it changes the way that we view today, right? When we start thinking about tomorrow as our focus instead of today as our focus, it's going to change the decisions that we make throughout our lives and throughout our day. So if you're in the then, you're thinking about paycheck to paycheck, and I've been there, right? How am I gonna do this? When we went through FPU, right? The first baby step in Financial Peace University is you're gonna have a $1,000 emergency fund. You know how many times I did that? 3 times. I had to build up, right? I had to build up to a $1,000 emergency fund, and we had to do that 3 times. When we were getting out of debt, some of our friends, my friends would get random checks or random cash sent to them. That's awesome. I love that for you. You know what I got? Overtime. Yep, I got overtime. I got extra hours. I have a friend, someone paid off all of their outstanding debt. Twice. They paid off all of their debt, paid off their student loans, paid off cars, paid it off for them. Twice. I got overtime. So now, so that was my then, right? So my now is Andre and I are saving for retirement. We've got money that we're putting away for retirement. We've got, we're throwing extra money at our mortgage that like I said, we're going to pay off our mortgage about little over 2 years early for what we have for mortgage, and it's not even that big of a mortgage because of, the land that we had. We have no car payments. Again, God blesses me amazingly. I got this awesome opportunity to make a whole bunch of money by living on the other side of the world. And then we got to buy a car because Andre's car died while I was gone. But we did it with cash because, but we're on track. We tithe, we give We support missions. We support, we give. And so all of that, so wherever you're at today, if you're in that point of like, I don't know, if I don't get my paycheck on Friday, I don't know where groceries are coming from next week. If that's you, I want you to let you know that's not your whole story. This is just one chapter, right? I've been there. Things can get better. Small actions, consistently done over time, make great change, okay? Little by little. Little by little, as we go through this, we start to realize that less is more, right? Little by little, we start to realize that stress is bad. Financial stress is going to drive you to the hospital, going to give you an ulcer. Little by little, we start to realize that giving is good. It really is more blessed to give than receive. And little by little, we start to realize that tomorrow matters. And as we start doing these things, little by little, God meets us where we're at. Okay? What I want for each of you is I want each of you to become a great investor. Right? And I'm not just talking about money. Right? I want you to invest in something more. Right? Jesus invested. Did you know Jesus was an investor? Okay? Jesus invested in his disciples and a few other people. He spent his time in investing in people. I want you to be rich in your marriage. I want you to invest in your marriage. Invest in your spouse. Spend time with them. Get on the same page as them. Share everything with your spouse. Share your dreams with your spouse. So for me, I know some of you don't. I think it's weird. Andrea and I have always had that kind of a relationship where we can kind of share our dreams together. That's not how everybody's wired, and I get that. But share your dreams with your spouse. I want you to be rich in your children. Do your children know that you love Jesus? Right? Do your children love Jesus? Do your children serve and give in what they do? Be rich in your children. Be rich in your friends. Do you have people that you can live life together with? Do you have people that you serve with, that you share your faith with? Do you have friends in your life that would do anything for you? Okay? I want you to be rich in ministry, and I'm not just talking about coming to church. Okay? I want you to realize that church is not a thing that we do on Sunday morning. Now, I want you to attend. I do appreciate that. Okay? Preaching to an empty room is super weird. So I do want you to attend a church, but I want you to realize that this building is not the church. You all are. Right? You are the church. I want you to be rich in ministry. Pour your life, your resources, your talents, your abilities into other people, into changing other people's lives, into changing the world. And so I want to ask you this: where are you at? Right? So we kind of get to the invitation time. Are you rich? Are you somebody who's considered rich? Have you realized that less is more? That stress is bad? That giving is good? And that tomorrow matters? And if that's you, and you can say, yeah, you know what? I have realized those things. And awesome. How are you being a blessing to other people? Coming up next week, we're going to have our Christmas offering, December 3rd. We're going to do a big Christmas offering for the church. Okay? So if that's you and you're rich and you're a giver and you want to be a blessing, December 3rd, that's your opportunity. We're going to do a Christmas offering. And hey, maybe you're not rich yet. That's okay. But maybe one day you can. Okay? Little by little, consistent, small actions over time reap big rewards. Okay? Start working on recognizing that less is more. Start working on recognizing that stress is bad. Start working on realizing that giving is good. And change your thinking to tomorrow matters. I'm going to ask that you close your eyes and bow your heads this morning. I want to give you an opportunity this morning to do today what honors God. If maybe you're someone here and you're like, you know what, I've never come to a point in my life where I've trusted Jesus with my life. And if that's you this morning, I just want you to just say this: Jesus, I give you my life. I know I'm not perfect, Jesus, but you are, and I give my life to you today. Maybe you're someone who who has trusted Jesus with your life before. Maybe you've been a Christian for years. And if you've trusted him with your life, why can't you trust him with your money, with your time, your talents, your resources? Father, thank you today for your word. God, I thank you for your blessing. I thank you for the principles that you've laid out for us. And God, I pray that each one of us here this morning, God, would realize that we don't have to make grand changes to change the world around us. But God, I pray that each one of us would, little by little, make small changes every day to grow closer to you, to share Jesus with others, and to be generous in giving and investing in not only our finances, but our friends, our family, the people that we encounter, God, that we could change this world. We just ask in Jesus' name. Amen.